Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Friday. It is 4 p.m. Pacific. Let's do some Pathfinder Friday. Today, we are talking about a bad guy that goes back pretty far. I'm not exactly sure how far back, and hopefully we can find out today. But it's the Whispering Tyrant, Tar-Baphon. Starts off as Tar-Baphon, becomes the Whispering Tyrant. It's a whole story. We'll get to most of that. But this character has a really, really long history with Pathfinder, and so it's also relevant because we've got an AP, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that as well. To learn more about Tar-Baphon, Whispering Tyrant, we've got none other than Jason Bulmahn in the house. Bulmahn, thanks for joining us.
Hey.
Director of game design.
Yeah. The only thing that could drag me away from working on Pathfinder 2nd Edition was talking about liches. You're talking liches? I'm there.
Yeah, I'm really bad with the job titles, I discovered.
Yeah, no worries.
I think I'm good until I need to say them out loud, and then I'm like, I can't. Right?
Yeah.
On Wednesday, I stumbled over Amanda's job title.
We change them every 4 weeks, so it's fine.
Yeah,
it makes us feel better. It's good.
So really quick, Mark Moreland, Yoda ate my head in the chat, is Mark Moreland, our franchise manager. He is saying that Tar-Baphon goes back to Pathfinder AP number 2, September 2007.
That is really quaint, Mark. But you're wrong!
Oh, man.
He predates that.
So Steve Geddes is saying Tar-Baphon predates Golarion and Pathfinder.
That is true. Steve has the right of it.
So in Pathfinder, that's Mark's follow-up. In Pathfinder.
Oh, all right, sure.
Saved yourself. You may continue to be the franchise manager.
All right, fine. This time.
No, don't jump ahead. See, now he's just giving spoilers.
Yeah, no, don't.
What are you doing? It's a show. We're doing a thing together. It'll be fun. Join the ride. Let's do this. So we're going to talk about Tar-Baphon.
That's right.
And we want to talk a little bit about the history, some of the behind the scenes. Think that might be kind of fun to do that.
Yeah.
And where it goes from there.
So interestingly enough, Tar-Baphon is one of the earliest pieces of creativity to come out of Paizo that wasn't Dragon or Dungeon magazine.
Right.
Yeah. So he predates Pathfinder before we even knew the word Pathfinder. Mm-hmm. He was part of our very early product dabblings back when we were doing 3.5 compatible products. We were toying around with various elements, things that we could do. And one of the things that we decided to do were make these things called complete. I always say them that way because they're spelled funny. Complete encounters.
Yeah. Now let's talk about that. So that's like a game in a box?
No. Well, what it was it was this plastic clamshell that had 3 miniatures in it.
Okay.
3 metal miniatures in it.
Oh no.
And a stack of 8x5 cards. And these 8x5 cards were dungeon tiles and a little micro adventure. The thought was this is a complete encounter in a box, and it was clever. And we sold a handful, and it was okay. But it was our first kind of dabbling in doing OGL compatible material back when we were still doing Dragon and Dungeon magazine. And the 2 of them that came out really, really early, and I can't remember if this was the second one or the first one. There was one called Death Shrine of the Ninja Cult.
Okay.
And there was one called Vault of the Whispering Tyrant.
Aha. Okay.
Now, we had Wayne Reynolds do initial sketches for these, and then we made miniatures based off Wayne Reynolds' pencil sketches.
So they're metal miniatures of the Whispering Tyrant out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of the first things we made. And so the Whispering Tyrant, he was in there, and Sean K. Reynolds wrote it, and Sean, I believe, is the one that's credited with coming up with the name Tar-Baphon, which I think is name checked in there. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time since I've read this, so I may have a few details wrong here, but I think that's right. And I'm sure Mark will correct me any moment here. But there wasn't a lot of backstory there. We didn't have a world yet. We didn't have a setting. These were meant to be generic that you could just drop into your game. Flash forward, and we're doing Pathfinder, and one of the things that we're doing is kind of what pieces from the products from that era can we pick up because we still own them. Mm-hmm. What pieces could we pick up and bring into our new world? And this is where the Whispering Tyrant initially came from.
Okay.
This is also where we got the Gorilla King and a handful of other characters. Yeah, they all came from those complete encounters. Encounters, yeah. So in those early days, we we gathered together some of these materials. Everybody started adding to things, and I had to be honest here. My memory here is pretty hazy. I know that there were certain things that I designed. I know that Wes was heavily involved, James was heavily involved, Eric was heavily involved. Everybody at the company, because there was only 7 or 8 of us making stuff at that point in time. We all had our hand in the patient. And I grabbed part of the Whispering Tyrant because, to be honest, I'm a huge fan of liches. I've always liked liches. And I did a lot of early kind of conceptual work for the Whispering Tyrant, especially when we started setting up what his role was going to be in Galarian and what he was doing. So what you're seeing right now, or about to see?
Nope, seeing it right now.
Seeing it right now.
As we talk.
Is a page from an early notebook that I had called it's called a Bien Fang note sketch, and it's got lines on one side and blank paper on the other side of one page, and I would use this to sketch out things in the world and write notes about it. So when we were designing the Whispering Tyrant's home of Gallowspire, I used that to kind of sketch out the tower and decide what Gallow Dead were something I invented on that piece of paper. You saw the skeleton with the big hook through him.
Right.
That was just some crazy idea I had that ended up becoming an art order that we later ended up turning into a monster. So, a lot of that early stuff was this massive creative process of everybody kind of throwing in ideas and like figuring out how he died and what his backstory was. And there's so much of it. I mean, that's the crazy part is this character, there are few characters in Galarian that have as much history as the Whispering Tyrant. His history stretches back 4,000 years. Now, he spent a good chunk of those years dead. But or imprisoned. but when he was active, he was doing a lot. So there's a lot to unpack here.
Right. So now, if we, we're looking at having to develop this character because started in the Complete, started there, ended up saying, well, we could use this. This is our thing that we can bring over to Pathfinder.
Yeah.
As Moreland said in the chat, AP number 2.
Sounds about right.
Shows up in there. We're going to trust him on that because he knows everything.
Yeah.
And so that then it has to be a character that is now brought into the Pathfinder realm, is a thing that exists here.
One of the things that happened very early on was we wrote the Pathfinder Galarian Gazetteer. And Eric and I wrote the majority of that, but it was with a lot of input from everybody who worked at the company, and various sections were farmed out for various people. And I believe Wes wrote Ustalov, but I wrote the part about Gallowspire, and bits of the Whispering Tyrant's backstory and history. I kind of ended up being the lich guy, which I'll take it.
And you have to do the
you have to do the double guns.
I'm the lich guy.
I'm the lich guy.
Yeah. All right, I like it.
Yeah.
And just really quick, we need to jump in and say that the chat is enamored with your handwriting and your drawing. Your drawing skills. So
as it turns out,
people are like, "Is that your real handwriting?"
That's me. Yeah. So here's a little secret.
Okay.
I went to art high school and actually was an architect. So like I have very like block letter penmanship that was drilled into me by various teachers, and the drawing is just something I've always loved to do. So I like sketching. Like the way that the Starstone Cathedral looks is because of my drawing of the Starstone Cathedral,
because of the architecture and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's my drawing.
So that's real. That's Jason's real handwriting.
Yep,
so
that's it.
There it is. It does kind of look like it's been lettered.
Kind of. So. Yeah. Well, I got to make sure that people can understand what it is I'm putting down on paper. So
yeah, totally. And now I'm just kind of showing the Gallowspire.
That's the dungeon. I drew that side view dungeon too. That's based off my drawing. I think I still have that original somewhere. So it's probably worth us going through like the Whispering Tyrant's history. You got a bunch of art that we can roll through.
Yeah.
But we should probably talk about his history. So
I agree.
The Whispering Tyrant was born as a mortal. We're not quite 100% sure when. We've never specifically said, because his early days are mostly unknown, especially before he started his conquest. It's generally thought he was born sometime around 800, but there's no concrete date in there. It is in the decades after that, in the mid 850s or so, when he really starts becoming active. And at this point in time, he's just Tar-Baphon. He's a mortal. He grew up on the shores of Lake Incarthen. He's a powerful necromancer.
Okay.
And he starts uniting the armies of Belkzen, and he gets undead under his control, and he takes over Ustalav, and he's just making a mess of things. And he's mostly a regional threat, but it's at this point in time that he also discovers a great power hidden in a couple different places. He starts reaching out for even greater power. It's this point in time when he finds the Cenotaph, which is this powerful relic in Belkzen that's filled with undead, or rather that he marches undead into. It's a little unclear. But he also finds the Isle of Terror, which is in the middle of Lake Incarthen. And the Isle of Terror is controlled by 3 dragons. A mother and her 2 children. I wrote down the names because I always forget 2 of them. Karamoros is the mother. Istravek and Naraga are her children.
Okay.
And the Whispering Tyrant, at this point in time he's still Tar-Baphon, really wants into this island secret because he knows there's something very powerful dwelling there that has some sort of connection to the negative energy plane. He doesn't quite know what it is, but he knows he wants it. So he ends up getting her 2 children to work for him. He convinces them to join his cause. But
Sneaky.
Yeah, but the mother refuses.
Oh.
She will not let him into the island.
Okay.
So he does what every good necromancer does, tortures her children, throws scales at her feet, and says, "Let me into this place or I will kill your children."
Well, that's just awkward.
Now, he's already killed them and turned them into raveners, but she doesn't know this yet.
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. He's a monster. And she eventually lets him in, and he spends an indeterminate amount of time, maybe up to a decade, plumbing the secrets of this island and setting up a trap. Because at this point in time, you have to remember, this is around 850, 860, 870, somewhere in there. The world is a very, very different place, right? Aroden, just 800 years ago, raised the Starstone out of the bed of the ocean and founded Absalom. He is still walking around on the planet as a dude. He's a god, but he is just walking around doing
blood.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like Kang of the Kung Fu. He's going to walk the earth.
Walking the earth.
Yeah, that's not accurate. He's doing stuff. But anyway, the Whispering Tyrant, or Tar-Baphon, starts formulating a plan because he's getting old. He knows that his time is coming to an end, and he realizes that Aroden is a serious threat to his empire. Aroden has started to rally forces against him because he's growing and growing and growing. So he decides that he needs to kill Aroden, but he has an ace in the hole.
Okay.
Because he's started to figure out how to become a lich, but his formula for becoming a lich states, because each lich formula is unique, his says that he has to be killed by a god.
Oh, no. Okay.
So defeating Aroden, he either beats Aroden and wins, or he gets defeated by Aroden, becomes a lich, and still wins. He wins either way.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm assuming Aroden doesn't know any of this.
No, Aroden doesn't know it at all. So Aroden is eventually lured to the island, and this is around 896.
Okay.
Aroden is lured to the island. The 2 of them fight. Aroden kills Tar-Baphon.
Okay.
Because he's a boss. And thinking no more of it, the threat defeated, the evil necromancer destroyed, he buries him on the island and goes his separate ways.
All right. So done.
Yeah. I should mention
It was
at
a
this
fun
point...
story, Jason. Thank you so much. That's where it ends, right?
Yeah, all done. I should also mention at this point, he's already killed both of the dragons that were serving him.
These poor dragons.
He made Naraga into, both Naraga and Istravek, into Raveners, which are undead super dragons, lich dragons. And had Naraga drag her mother through the portal to the negative energy plane, killing her. Naraga came back out horribly wounded from the fight, and Tar-Baphon just destroys Naraga, just blasts Naraga out of existence. But Naraga's 2 giant horns are intact and filled with foul magical power, and he uses those to make that big helmet of his. Those horns are that black dragon's horns. Naraga.
Naraga. Okay. And we're going to get... See, here's the problem, is I don't have any... I think all the images I have are the Whispering Tyrant.
Yeah, we never did any of
the
Naraga.
Earliest thing I have, so I don't want to get into the images just yet, because then it jump ahead.
I know. We're almost there.
Bear with me. We're going to get there. I'm sorry.
So he dies in 896.
Okay.
And then chills out in the ground for
just
like 2,400 years.
So, all right. This is going to be a long show.
So in 897, Nothing happens.
Okay.
In 898, still dead. 899, he's still dead.
Let's just
okay. We'll just jump.
because he comes back at some point.
Yeah.
Let's get right to that point.
Okay, fine. You want to cut this? Fine.
I'm into the brevity thing, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to give you guys a complete picture, and this is what I have to work with. I don't know what to tell you guys.
My fault.
All right, so 3203, he comes back.
Okay.
Now,
how long is he dead for?
2,400 years.
Wow.
Now,
Okay.
we've never said why that is.
Sorry, Lori. Sorry.
We've never said why that is.
Okay.
And there's never been an exact explanation. I have my own theories, but I don't think we've ever said specifically. Personally, part of his whole plan was to become a lich, but I think Aroden was so powerful that he actually destroyed him more than he wanted to be destroyed in the process.
Interesting.
And it took longer for him to put himself back together, as it were.
Okay.
So I think part of his ritual didn't quite go as planned, which, happens with, lich formulas. They're not exact science. That's always been my theory. We've never said that in print, so it may not be true, but that's always been my theory on it. But he comes back and immediately, is a nightmare. He leaves the Isle of Terror behind. He rises up from that, abandons his headquarters there, goes back to Ustalav, immediately calls back forth his undead armies that have been laying in the ground, and promptly begins to conquer the entire place. He does this incredibly fast. He takes back most of his old territory very, very, very quickly. And by very quickly, I mean it takes him 100 years. But that's very fast to conquer entire nations from having nothing.
Right, right.
He ends up conquering an entire area of Ustalav, eventually all of Ustalav. He takes one of their regional capitals and destroys it and turns it into Gallowspire, his new capital.
Okay.
And that's where the tower comes from.
I gotcha.
He built that as the seat of his power, and any who displeased him, he hung from the outside of his tower with giant hooks through their chest.
Which was the drawing that you had done in the
exactly.
original one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Those bodies would eventually become so suffused with necromantic energy that they, in turn, would animate as undead flailing about on the outside of the tower.
Oh, so it's just bolstering his own army.
Yeah.
He's you've made me angry, so I'm going to hang you on this hook.
Yeah.
And then you'll just come back and be a part of my army later.
And this is actually the biggest challenge with fighting liches. When you send troops at them, those that he kills bolsters his army.
Right.
You send people at him, you are sending him more troops.
Okay. Gotcha.
They're just not ready yet. They need to cook a bit.
Right.
So
then is it fair to say, so Alinea is saying it's all Aroden's fault?
That you could make that argument.
Yeah.
That Aroden didn't do the job. That Aroden only kind of he's well, he's dead. I guess that's over. What could possibly happen if I kill a necromancer? Nothing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And he kind of didn't finish the job. Now, that's compounded by the fact that when the Whispering Tyrant came back, Aroden doesn't show up to stop him. At this point in time, Aroden's left Galarian. He doesn't walk the world anymore. He's gone. And he doesn't come back to finish off the Whispering Tyrant. At best, later on during the war, he sends his herald and he sends artifacts and his emissaries, but he himself does not take the field again. So what ends up happening is the Whispering Tyrant begins rebuilding his holdings, and he blows out the borders that he had last time. Now, what we currently know as Lastwall at this point in time was part of Ustalav. He conquers all of that. The orcs swear allegiance to him again. They're too terrified of his power. And he promptly begins to eat up the entire Lake and Carthan region. He just conquers everything. And eventually he starts nibbling on the borders of what is the expanded Taldor. And this happens about 500 years after he was resurrected. So in 500 years, he ate up the entire area of Lake and Carthan. It's all under his domain. And eventually he starts pushing against the other big nation at the time, which is Taldor. Now, Taldor is already in a state of decline at this point, if I recall correctly. But Taldor was the nation that went out and conquered everything. The armies of exploration went out and conquered all these different areas, all these different territories, set up all these different regions, and the Whispering Tyrant is now starting to rub up against their territories, and Taldor panics.
And so, and this is the question. So everybody knows, by this point they know who the Whispering Tyrant is.
Oh yeah, no,
they're like,
there's
no.
I don't think it's never quite clear whether or not they know he's Tar-Baphon or not. But it doesn't really matter, right? There's a powerful lich who is driving undead armies into their lands, killing everyone and animating them at will. He has dozens of incredibly powerful lieutenants underneath him that are doing his bidding. Like, we never even fully explain all of them, but there's a lot of them, and they are very powerful.
Right.
So he's crushing people. He rubs up against Taldor, and Taldor's like, no, we don't want any of this. And they reach out to other imperiled nations, primarily the dwarves of Kragadan, which would later become the Five King Mountains, the dwarves of Kragadan, and the Knights of Ozim, who are this knightly order who are kind of wandering about. And they're like, we need to put an end to this. So they form what becomes known as the Shining Crusade. And the Shining Crusade launches out of Taldor, is primarily funded by Taldor and the dwarves, and their entire goal is to put an end to the Whispering Tyrant. So, and this starts in 3754. So this is about 550 years after he came back as a lich. And for the next 70 years, they are waging war against the Whispering Tyrant. 70 years they spend clawing back territory, eventually making their way across Lake Incarthen and forming a beachhead in a place that would become Volumus, the city in Lastwall.
Okay.
That is where they land. And at this point in time, they're only a couple hundred miles away from Gallowspire. But it takes them another 20 years to push from that point to his tower to defeat him. In that period of time, they actually summon Erasni, Aroden's herald, to aid them in the fight. But that goes terribly wrong because the Whispering Tyrant captures her and in front of their entire army murders her.
Oh no. This guy, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
He's not friendly. And he's doing it to try and bait Aroden.
Oh, okay.
He wants to face Aroden. That's
so he's
what
trying
he
to get
wants.
him to come back.
He's trying to get him to come back. Come on.
Okay.
This is what you send to me? Is this all you have? Are you not entertained? He just starts murdering these people left and right. And like Iomedae, during this period of time, is in the Shining Crusade. She's immortal still. And some of her acts, the acts of Iomedae, occur during this crusade.
Oh, wow.
Like she faces, one of the acts is when she faces off against a Morg general. That's one of the acts of Iomedae. It happens during the Shining Crusade.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, you should remember this in our home campaign. You saw it.
I'm trying to, because
I'm sorry to confuse you. Yeah, no, it's confusing.
There's a home game that you were running with Eric Mona and Jason was running the game. It is a homebrew campaign.
Yeah, it's homebrew.
But we actually, our characters were whisked into some alternate.
You were whisked
universe,
into the memory,
and we played in that.
You were in the middle of the Shining Crusade.
Yeah, when it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you actually were part of the emissaries that delivered the shield of Aroden.
Well, it's funny because Eric's character was a cleric of Iomedae, talking about the axe and everything, and so his character was just
met Iomedae and lost
blown
it.
away.
Yeah, it was great.
It was a lot of fun.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah,
that's a sidebar. We don't have a lot of time here, but
no, I know. I'm keeping it moving. The Shining Crusade has pushed up. In 3823 is when they summon Erasni, and Erasni gets killed. Now they're getting close to the end of the war. They're almost to Gallowspire. The Lich is still defiant. He's still holding them back, but eventually the fight reaches his door. And General Arnesant takes to the field. Now, General Arnesant was from Taldor. He's one of the Taldor commanders. And he was bearing a holy relic of Aroden called the Shield of Aroden.
Ah, okay.
And he takes to the field, and the Whispering Tyrant now, the fight is now on his door. The Whispering Tyrant takes to the field himself. So now they're fighting in the army, the Lich is there. And Liches in an army are a terrifying thing to behold because they're reckless. They don't care if they die. They get to come back. You can't kill them that way. They get to be reborn out of their phylactery, and as long as it's not there, you can kill him all they want. He'll come right back and keep fighting. So for the army to face off against a Lich, that's very dangerous because the Lich doesn't have to play by the same rules you do.
Right.
And being brazen, the Lich is throwing around incredibly powerful spells. You know, the Whispering Tyrant is a mythic level character for us, so he is incredibly powerful. And when he finally faces off against Arnesant, Arnesant's wielding the shield, and the Whispering Tyrant casts a wish. And he wishes for Arnesant's heart to be in his hand. Arnisant, unfortunately, well, unfortunate for the Whispering Tyrant, his heart is with Aroden, and his heart is in that shield, so the shield shatters, and the holy piece of that relic fuses itself to the Whispering Tyrant's hand. He doesn't get his heart, he gets his own destruction.
Oh, no.
Because wishes do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, so because wishes always seem to be...
they don't always go as planned.
Yeah, okay.
So, the Lich is greatly weakened. He flees back into his tower. This relic is in him and he can't get it out. And the Shining Crusade quickly moves to seal him in his tower. They don't know how to defeat him. They just don't. He's a lich. No one knows where his phylactery is. In fact, there are rumors that Urgathoa herself is the one who hid it. So they're not finding it. So the best thing that they can come up with is sealing him inside his tower. They're just like, seal him in there, we'll lock him in there forever, and then we don't have to deal with this. So they come up with a plan. And that plan is to create the Great Seal. And they do this by creating 3 smaller seals that throw power at this Great Seal to keep him in there. And as long as all 3 of the seals exist, the Great Seal is impenetrable. And they take these 3 seals and they give it to each order that fought in the Crusade. So the Knights of Ozum get one, the Dwarves of Kragadan get one, and Taldor gets one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 2 of those we know what happened to them in the history of Golarion. One is destroyed in the very first Game Mastery module, way back in the early days. It's destroyed in Crown of the Kobold King. Okay. You find that the Dwarves of Kragadan gave it to a rare, obscure religious sect, and that sect went sour, and over the years they forgot about it, and some undead destroyed it. We never really get the details about how it happened, but that's what happened. So the first one was destroyed the moment we started talking about the Whispering Tyrant. It's like, he's 1/3 out.
All right.
The second one ends up going to Taldor. And Taldor at that time was in its kind of era of decline. And it probably, and we never really said this, but our understanding was that it was given to the king of Taldor, who was like, oh, that's a nice bauble, and put it in a vault somewhere.
All right, well,
as a trophy.
Safe.
Yeah, as a
safe.
trophy.
Yeah.
But generations went by. King fell on hard times, got to sell things from that treasure vault or give them as gifts or whatever.
Did he know what it was?
Well, generations later? No.
No. Generations later did not know. Okay.
Just a thing in there. Did we catalog that? Nah, it's fine.
It's a thing. It's a trophy.
So somehow it ended up out of that vault, either sold or given as a gift or possibly stolen. We never quite said. And it ends up in Kirmaga, which is in Varisia. And it ends up with an order that knows what it is and vows to protect it. Called the Order of the Seal or something like that. Mm-hmm. And they end up protecting it for a long time until the events of one of our recent APs where it gets destroyed.
Okay.
And by recent APs, it's not in the Tyrant's grasp, but I don't want to quite spoil it, but it's destroyed in one of our recent APs.
Okay.
Now, the fourth one is the one that the Knights of Ozum have. And the Knights of Ozum founded Lastwall. But we've never said where it is.
Okay. So they have it. But
we don't know where it is. And
under lock and key, presumably. But
they have their top men on it.
It's
top men.
Just rolling it into a big hanger.
No, it's fine.
It's in a crate.
That's fine.
But if the previous handling of these seals is any indication,
I'm sure it's fine.
You better look out.
I'm sure it's fine.
But everything's fine.
Yeah.
Locked away.
So that all happened in 38, 24, 25.
Okay.
So that's 1,000 years ago.
1,000 years.
And until recently, everything's been fine.
And then that brings us, and this is the whole reason why we wanted to talk about Tar-Baphon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in, I believe it's 5 days, the PDF of AP of the number of the first volume of Tyrant's Grasp was going to be available. It's, The Dead Roads by Ron Lundeen. And so we thought, boy, it'd be really fun to talk about this character.
And nothing I've said is a spoiler for this at all. I've been very careful not to give any spoilers about what happens in the AP. I'm not going to give any spoilers about the AP. I want folks to play it and enjoy it because we're really excited about it.
Yeah, it is definitely spoiler-free.
Yep.
But it's going to be worth it. If you would like to see the player's guide, which is a free download that you can have, it'll help kind of set you up in some character and things like that. I've got a link right there for you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm going to put a little a call to action up in the corner for you, so you can hit that and grab that player's guide for the Tyrant's Grasp. And we've got more shows planned for Tyrant's Grasp.
Absolutely, yeah. No, that'll be their team though. I know the plot, but I'm going to let them. They're the experts on that. And it is. You guys are in for a wild ride.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. Anything else? Because we're out of time. Is there anything else we wanted to cover about the Whispering Tyrant?
The Whispering Tyrant? No, I think we've covered all of it. I mean, I have to admit, this is my favorite character in all of Golarion. I'm a huge fan of liches. Liches get me out of bed in the morning, right? So being able to share this villain with all of you and all of your poor, tortured home players is really exciting to me. So
yeah, and and this is the thing is that I kind of knew that this would have to be one of the first shows we do as we get into this AP. And you're busy. You're crazy busy.
Yeah, no.
Snowed under, literally.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
And it was like, we got to do this show. And it was like, Jason, can you make the time? And so that I was really excited that we could actually get this thing going. So, let's see. His favorite color is blue, surprisingly. So there we go. That was a good time. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up, and then we'll get to some Q&A.
Yeah.
You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm doing
all right.
great.
Sounds good. Let's do this. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I hope you learned a lot. I know I did. That is some deep history that we got into, and there's more. And if you'd like to learn more, I'll put a link in the description to the player's guide for this new AP that starts very, very soon. It continues the story, ostensibly, of the Whispering Tyrant. It's called the Tyrant's Grasp. And if you learned a lot, put it down in the comments section. Tell us your favorite encounter with Tar-Baphon or the Whispering Tyrant, and I'll make sure Jason sees them. We'll high five and laugh over the best ones. And if you really liked it, give it a like. And consider subscribing to our channel. And in the meantime, for Paizo and for Bulmahn over here, and for me, I'm your old buddy Dan. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye.